She was the woman who had it all.
She loved what she did. She loved her husband. She loved her children.
So why would she disappear without a trace?
It wasn't like her to just up and walk away. I had that gut feeling something's wrong. There's some type of foul play going on.
As police search for the truth, rumors swirl about betrayals and lies.
They did work together.
There's a whole lot more to this story. The jealousy just built more and more.
The whole thing is strange and convoluted.
And each twist is more shocking than the last.
They were following him.
His tires have been slashed.
His home was firebombed.
You just don't think things like this happen to people?
It became an all-in-all war.
September 6th, 2016, Memphis, Tennessee. It's a typical Friday morning in Hickory Hill, a comfortable suburban community on the southeastern edge of the city.
It's middle class, upper middle class type neighborhood, almost completely residential.
It's a great area, especially for the kids. You could raise your family, go to church. Schools are exceptional.
But for one Memphis family, this morning will be anything but ordinary. At 7 a.m., Hickory Hill homeowner Randall Freeman places a panicked call to 911.
911, where's emergency?
It's my wife.
Randall reported her missing.
Randall explains that when he woke up moments ago, he was surprised to see that his wife Kayla wasn't in bed beside him.
He walks around the house looking for her.
Kayla!
He still couldn't find her.
She's not in the house at all. Randall goes into the garage. He sees the car.
He notices that the garage door is up.
And the driver's side door of Kayla's car is open.
Her keys in ignition.
Her purse is on the ground, and he knows this isn't right.
Randall had a sinking feeling that his wife is in danger.
She's gone. Somebody took her.
Memphis native Kayla Ashford was initially quiet and reserved around strangers.
She was very shy, very polite.
But it was never long before her warm and friendly nature would come shining through.
Once you became comfortable around her, her personality opened up. Once you got her to smile or laugh, she was your friend, pretty much. When she laughed, everyone laughed because it was just that infectious. She just lit up a whole room. She just was a likable person. She had lots of friends.
But for all her friends, Kayla felt most at home with her family.
She was always around her family. She was very family-oriented. We're very close. If you saw one of us at Mom's house, you saw the other. We like to travel, so we would always be planning our next adventure. She was always looking for tickets somewhere or take a girls' trip. She just really loved traveling.
Kayla had inevitably earned the time off, too. Her love of travel was tempered by a strong work ethic.
Her family, they're driven people. My mom is an educator, so of course schoolwork came first. My family pushes us to do bigger and better things.
For Kayla, a career in social work was the perfect fit.
She was assisting individuals that were on probation, just making sure that individuals were staying off of drugs, making sure they were where they were supposed to be, keeping up with the schedules that were given to them, finding job placement and all of that good stuff. She absolutely loved the type of work she did, the people she worked with. She really loved that job.
But the real love of her life was a man named Randall Freeman. The pair were high school sweethearts who married in 2012.
They went to middle school together. But as far as dating, It became serious maybe around end of freshman year.
He was a familiar face. She felt comfortable around him.
They also had a lot in common.
He was kind of quiet, kind of reserved.
And just like Kayla, Randall worked hard.
He had a good job.
He was in construction. The company that he worked with worked on housing projects. They were building up the neighborhood in Binghamton.
They were trying to redevelop this neighborhood a little bit at a time.
So he did a lot of hands-on work.
Over more than 12 years together, Kayla and Randall forged a strong bond.
I love you, baby.
I love you too. He seemed like a great guy. I was extremely happy for her.
They also had 2 beautiful children.
They both were really excited about the birth of their children.
Motherhood was just awesome for her. She just enjoyed every minute of it.
When she became a mom, it really brought a lot of joy to her. She was definitely involved. She absolutely wanted the best for her children. She's striving to do better for her life and for her family.
By all accounts, the Freemans had built the perfect family. But on the morning of September 6, 2016, an ominous scene emerges from within the Freeman home.
Randall had just called 911 and reported that his wife was missing and possibly abducted.
I don't know. She's just gone. Somebody took her.
When officers respond to Randall's 911 call, the evidence suggests he may be right.
The police arrived and they started looking around and trying to figure out, okay, the keys are here, the purse is here, the car is here.
All her credit cards, driver's license, everything is there in the purse. But her phone is missing. All these things raise the alarm bells significantly.
But does that mean she's been kidnapped?
There was no sign that anybody had forced their way into the home, that there had been a struggle inside the car.
However, just outside the door, separating the garage from the rest of the house, the officers make a chilling discovery.
Kayla's pants are on the floor of the garage.
That immediately made police think that there was some type of foul play.
It's possibly a sexually motivated crime.
Oh my God.
In the fall of 2016, 29-year-old Kayla Freeman was living her best life.
Kayla had a great career, had been married to her husband, Randall, for 3 years, and had 2 beautiful children.
She loved her family. She was happy with her life.
But on the morning of September 6th, Randall calls the Memphis police and reports that Kayla has disappeared.
Her car is in the garage with the keys in the ignition.
He finds her purse and then her pants on the ground.
They began to wonder, was this a sexual abduction?
Although there's no body, there's no blood, there's no true evidence of foul play, police go ahead and call in the homicide division.
Major crimes, we have a possible abduction.
When homicide detectives arrive on scene, getting information from Randall is their top priority.
When Randall reported her missing, he didn't provide a lot of details.
Can you tell me a little more about what took place here last night?
He was initially distraught.
He didn't give any indication of what could have happened.
Sir, I know this is very difficult, but if there's anything that you could remember right now that you can share with us, it would really help us out.
Kayla went out with some friends, some people from work.
Randall tells police that she had got home pretty late. He had already gone to bed for the evening. And he heard her car pull in, but she didn't immediately come in the house.
Randall tells police that after hearing Kayla's car pull into the garage, he'd rolled over and soon dozed off again.
It was a little before 7 when I woke up and I realized she wasn't there. Kayla.
That's when he started looking for her and finds her car, her purse, the keys, and everything.
Could Kayla's disappearance be an abduction or worse? Randall's statement raises red flags for detectives.
I feared the worst from the very beginning. It's highly unusual for a mother to leave two young children.
She's in love with her children. She would never leave them.
Which, of course, brought detectives to their next question.
Were you and Kayla having any kind of problems?
No, not really. We argue sometimes, same as anyone.
Did any of those arguments ever turn physical?
No, I would never hurt Kayla.
Randall stated that he loved his wife very much.
Randall also doesn't hesitate when detectives ask if they can search his van and the rest of the house.
He's very cooperative. He wants to do everything he can to help the investigators find his wife.
After Randall wakes the children and drives them to a relative's house, detectives search the couple's home for clues.
It's just an average house in terms of the normal everyday things.
Randall's van also appears clean.
We didn't see any signs of blood in his vehicle.
It was just frustrating because we really had no clue as to where she could be.
But just as detectives appear at an impasse, the case takes a startling turn.
Who lives here?
I'm sorry?
I want to report whoever owns this van.
This random man begins yelling and screaming.
He just happened to show up in the middle of all this. It's very odd.
The police calm him down, and he tells them that his name is Clayton James and that he lived a couple of blocks over.
According to Clayton, he'd stopped because he'd spotted Randall's van, which is still parked in the driveway in front of the Freeman's house.
He claims that this van has been stalking him.
It's been following me around for a week.
He has seen this van before. It was distinctive.
He wanted to know who that van belonged to.
When detectives tell him, Clayton appears to draw a blank.
I don't know, Randall.
But Clayton knew Kayla.
Yeah, I know.
She had gone to high school with this guy, and they actually were co-workers for a little while.
But he said he did not know that Kayla lived there.
Clayton claims to not know she's missing either.
When detectives tell Clayton about what's happened with Kayla, he's shocked.
Last night?
Yes.
Wow.
But is his reaction genuine? Detectives aren't so sure.
It's too coincidental that he just so happens to live down the street.
When was the last time you spoke to Kayla?
It's been a while.
He says he hadn't talked to her in over 2 years.
You think that her husband is following you?
Yeah.
Any idea why?
No clue.
He didn't realize at the time that it was a person married to someone he knew. He just knew this guy's messing with him.
Clayton assures detectives he'll let them know if he hears anything from Kayla.
They let him go for now, but the police are really concerned that he just so happens to show up at the house during the investigation.
Hoping for more information, the detectives reach out to Kayla's family, who are racked with worry.
We've already talked to Randall, and we got the news out that Kayla is missing.
No one can find her. She's not answering my phone calls. She's not answering my texts.
They were actively looking for her themselves.
I was still trying to piece things together. I just really couldn't believe that I have a missing sister.
Did she have any problems, enemies?
Everyone loved Kayla.
There's no one that even came to mind.
The family also doubts that Randall would have hurt Kayla.
I honestly didn't see anything that was just like a red flag or anything out of the ordinary.
Randall was looked at as a pretty good guy, a pretty decent man.
And most of all, the family's adamant that Kayla would never have strayed from her marriage.
Kayla was very faithful to her husband. She was focused on her family.
Most of what we devoted mother.
But could there be more to Kayla than she had been letting on?
She may not tell the family everything. We had to start digging a little bit more.
And when detectives begin reaching out to Kayla's friends, it's exactly as they suspected. Kayla has been hiding something.
it's discovered that Kayla and Randall's relationship wasn't always rosy.
I would say as of the last 6 months of her marriage, she started sharing some of the problems that they were having.
Kayla's getting a little frustrated with the marriage. She may be getting ready to leave Randall.
But it's Kayla's reason for leaving that really floors the detectives.
Randall was having an affair.
Less than 48 hours after Kayla Freeman disappeared from her suburban Memphis home, detectives have learned that Kayla's relationship with her husband Randall wasn't all that it appeared to be.
Randall had actually been having an affair.
So this whole picket fence, happy family scenario seems to be wiped off in the wash.
News of the affair makes detectives want to take a closer look at Randall.
They realized that Randall wasn't telling the 100% truth the first time that they spoke with him. And they really want to press him for more information.
However, detectives also want to talk to the third member of the alleged love triangle, a woman Kayla's friends identify as 27-year-old Claire Parks.
According to Kayla's friends, she had recently confronted Claire about her affair with Randall.
Kayla and Claire had had words about it, but it never became violent.
On Monday morning, September 9th, detectives bring Claire down to the station for an interview, and she is very upfront about her relationship with Randall.
I mean, it was nothing serious. We were just kind of messing around.
Claire states that, yes, she and Randall had been having a good time, and that was all it was to either of them, just a fling.
She informs officers that she had no intentions on trying to break up a happy home.
But Kayla found out.
Yeah, and she was pretty upset.
Her and Kayla had had words a couple times, but it was nothing that rose to the level of her wanting to harm Kayla. And she told police that the night that all of this happened, she was at home with her kids.
Obviously, we want to make sure we really confirm anything she says.
Detectives will also need to check up on what Claire says next.
While Claire is admitting about the affair, she goes on to drop another bombshell.
I don't even know why she's mad at me and Randall, though. I mean, she has no room to talk.
Claire brings up the fact that Kayla has been having an affair.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's what Randall said.
He apparently was able to get into her phone, seeing messages and things of that nature.
According to Claire, Randall not only suspected Kayla was having an affair, he also knew the identity of her lover.
The man's named Clayton James.
Clayton was the guy who showed up at Kayla's house the morning she disappeared and claimed that Randall had been following him.
He told the police that he had no idea that she was missing or anything of that nature, that he was driving through that neighborhood and stumbled upon the van.
Now detectives are wondering, was it all a lie?
The whole thing is now much more strange and convoluted.
That afternoon, detectives bring Clayton down to the station and press him about the alleged affair.
You're not doing anybody any justice if you don't go down that rabbit hole. You have to check all these possibilities.
Clayton denies everything.
He swears and swears and swears that he's never had any type of relationship with her in any way. He said, I've never even hugged her before.
He insisted to officers that he was a happily married man.
And you didn't have anything to do with her disappearance?
No, of course not. I was at home all night.
Clayton's alibi is that he was at home with his wife and children.
And your wife, she'll back you.
Once Clayton realizes that officers are intending to speak with his wife, he becomes extremely nervous.
Clayton's not wanting to have the officers verify his alibi with his wife raises a red flag.
They're concerned that Clayton might be hiding something, and that makes them more suspicious.
It kind of brings to the detective's mind, what would Clayton do to keep someone from making these allegations to his wife?
When detectives follow up with Clayton's wife, Rachel, she appears completely in the dark about Kayla Freeman.
What's going on? Why am I here?
She's really confused as to why police are talking to her.
She's completely unaware of what the allegations are concerning her husband and Kayla.
Do you recognize the name Kayla Freeman?
No.
She doesn't know who this woman is. She doesn't know about an affair.
However, Rachel says that she does know one thing.
She tells police that she knows her husband. He's not a violent man. He's not going to do anything to hurt anybody, even if he was having an affair.
Rachel also confirms Clayton's alibi.
There's no way that Clayton had anything to do with that woman or her disappearance. He was at home with me all night.
Rachel tells detectives the same thing that Clayton said before, that he had been home with her as well as the kids all night.
But does that mean Clayton's alibi is as airtight as it sounds?
Since Clayton only lived a few blocks from Kayla, it's possible he could have slipped out in the middle of the night while Rachel and the kids were asleep.
Hoping to determine if there really was something going on between Clayton and Kayla, detectives subpoena her cell phone records.
Maybe there was some type of relationship, some kind of contact. We have to check and make certain.
However, detectives are still waiting on the records when the investigation takes another unexpected twist.
Victor Mullins.
They get a tip from Randall's boss, who says that the day after Kayla's disappearance, Randall showed up to work extra early before anyone else.
Randall's boss says he didn't think anything of it at the time, but that was before he found out that Kayla had gone missing.
That was the day that they were supposed to lay the concrete slab for the house that they were building. When everyone arrived at work, Randall had already laid the entire slab by himself.
Randall's boss shares with the detectives a horrific suspicion.
He believes that he knows where Kayla is buried.
Less than a week after Kayla Freeman disappeared, detectives working the case have just received a suspicious tip about her husband, Randall.
According to his foreman, Randall had come into the construction site early the morning after she disappeared and poured a concrete slab all by himself.
Maybe Randall showed up to work early that day to lay the slab by himself so that he could bury Kayla's body under it.
Detectives move quickly to act on the foreman's tip.
They have to secure a warrant to dig up that concrete slab.
While waiting for a judge to sign off on the search warrant, the detectives haul Randall in for questioning.
This time, they're playing hardball with him. They're letting him know that, yes, he is a suspect.
Why didn't you tell us you were cheating on Kayla?
They confront him with the information about the affair with Claire Parks, and he admits it. He says, yeah, he was having an affair with Claire, but that Kayla was having a relationship with Clayton as well.
She was hooking up with him.
Are you sure?
I know it.
He seemed a bit jealous, unstable, maybe paranoid about Kayla and her actions.
Randall's rage and his jealousy made police really become more and more suspicious.
He said things started becoming much more tense between them. They had had more arguments. There was a lot of accusations.
According to Randall, the simmering tensions had boiled over on the night Kayla disappeared.
He admits that there's more to the story, and he had left out a few things.
Randall says that when he'd heard Kayla pull into the garage, he hadn't simply rolled over and gone back to sleep.
Randall states that he did go out and confront her.
Kayla, where you been?
I told you, friends from work.
Don't lie to me.
He was paranoid at that point that she had been with Clayton, and they began
Kayla, you say you been
arguing.
with your friends all day this week?
We've had this conversation, Randall.
To detectives, it sounded like Randall was working his way towards a confession.
Did you hit her?
What? No.
Randall claimed that he'd said his piece to Kayla, and then stormed back inside.
They had a large fight, and she stayed in her car so that she could just ease her mind.
And she never came inside the house.
No, I waited, but she never came to bed.
According to Randall, it eventually drifted off to sleep.
He said, when I woke up, she was gone.
Naturally, detectives were more than a little skeptical of Randall's story.
You're not sure which part to believe, if any.
But do detectives know how the story really ends?
If we go dig up that concrete slab you poured, are we going to find Kayla underneath it?
No, that's crazy.
He tells investigators he couldn't sleep, and instead of just sitting around the house pacing, he decided to go to work and get a jump start on things. Try to get his mind off of the possibility that something really bad might have happened to his wife.
Is Randall telling the truth?
Okay, you're free to go.
There's one way to find out.
By now, the judge had signed the search warrant.
From the station, detectives head out to the construction site, where a crew is already waiting.
A private contractor that does ground penetrating radar work offered to come out. And sure enough, we have an anomaly. It's about 5 feet long, about 4 feet wide, about 2 to 4 feet deep. And that would be perfect for a body.
Now all detectives need to do is dig up the slab.
We got the city's general services to provide us a bobcat out there with a jackhammer to help us bust up the slab.
Even with heavy equipment, it's hours of back-breaking work.
This is a concrete slab for the foundation of a house. It's a pretty good size area, and we ended up busting up the entire slab, sifting through all the rubble.
Detectives are hopeful and excited that they will solve this case.
They were really optimistic that once they dug up the concrete slab, they would find Kayla.
There's a lot of hope. The news was there. Drones, cameras, everything.
But at the end of their search, the detectives come up empty-handed.
Although there was an anomaly, there was no body.
They didn't find Kayla. They didn't find any evidence of a crime.
We were there all day, literally all day, and came up with nothing.
It appeared that Randall was telling the truth.
And detectives are back to square one.
They didn't know where Kayla was or what happened to her.
But just as Kayla's trail appears to be going cold, the investigation into her disappearance takes another bizarre turn.
What?
The detectives are notified by a 911 dispatch, and there is a fire at Clayton Jane's home.
That was another shocker. I was like, what in the world? What is going on?
All right, we'll be right there.
What happened?
Apparently, someone had thrown a Molotov cocktail and set it ablaze.
Detective Mullins.
1 week after Kayla Freeman vanished, police and firefighters have just responded to another urgent 911 call a few blocks away from her suburban Memphis home.
A 911 call comes into dispatch, and it's Clayton James reporting that his house is on fire.
This is the guy that Randall has accused Kayla of sleeping with.
Had to escape from the house.
Clayton and his family are unharmed, and firefighters are able to extinguish the flames.
But as Clayton informed detectives, this wasn't the first bizarre incident that had occurred since Kayla disappeared.
He said that he'd been receiving text messages, phone messages, threats.
The next morning, detectives review footage from surveillance cameras Clayton had recently installed on his home.
When the police went through the surveillance footage, not only did they see someone throwing the firebomb, they saw who threw it.
The person firebombing the house is indeed Randall Freeman. You can see his face clearly, even at night.
After viewing the video footage, police immediately secure an arrest warrant for Randall Freeman for arson.
It doesn't really matter if the house burns to the ground, partially burns, or just has a little bit of damage from this arson. It's all the same.
The news of Randall's arrest floors Kayla's family.
My sister's missing, and you're setting other people's house on fire. How does this connect? And what is really going on?
Randall is committing arson against a person he believes that Kayla is sleeping with. That just made things worse in terms of our suspicions.
But given the timing, Randall's motive remains unclear.
Did Randall do this because of the affair, or did he do this because he began to think that Clayton was behind the disappearance?
Detectives are wondering if Randall is seeking vigilante justice.
Only Randall knows for sure, but he's done talking.
After he went to jail, he quit cooperating with us. He pretty much just asked for an attorney and wouldn't talk about it.
With Randall in jail on the arson charge, detectives turn their focus to Clayton James, who denied having an affair with Kayla.
You have to wonder, is Randall really paranoid and suspicious, or is he on the right track? Is she actually having an affair with this person?
But when detectives received Kayla's phone records, it appeared Clayton was telling the truth.
We couldn't establish any kind of real contact between them. And at the time of Kayla's disappearance, it didn't appear they were making any contact at all.
There was never any evidence of a relationship other than a friendship between Clayton and Kayla.
When detectives follow up with Kayla's family and friends, they also dismiss Randall's allegation that she had cheated.
Kayla was very faithful to her husband. She never, ever mentioned anything about another man because there was no man.
That was just a slap in our face to even say something like that.
But if that was the case, why did Randall seem so convinced that Kayla and Clayton were having an affair?
I'm not sure what made him think this.
His obsession with Clayton James really stuck out to me. Even after Kayla was gone, he's still chasing after this man.
But does that mean Randall had also done something to Kayla?
For me, it's all funneling down to this is going to be a murder.
The question is, can detectives prove it?
They don't have any way to connect him to the disappearance of his wife.
We don't really have a witness that can say, you know, I saw somebody dragging a body out of a car. I saw somebody digging on the side of the road, or I saw someone on a bridge throwing something into a creek. We don't have that kind of an eyewitness. And even the evidence that we do have is not really significant enough to say this proves it's a homicide.
Also, the homicide detectives do not have a body.
We don't even know if she's dead, technically. Even if we believe it, we don't know it. So in a way, we're missing everything.
Still, the detectives refuse to give up.
We never quit. We're not going to stop until we get all the answers that we can get and find those responsible and put them where they need to be.
Detectives spend long hours searching for Kayla's body.
We look at the satellite images of the area. We see there's wooded areas. There's bodies of water. We started trying to do some systematic searching of those areas.
All of their searches come up empty.
Weeks pass as Kayla's friends and family become more and more desperate to find her.
We did the flyers. Of course, it was on the news. It was on social media.
They put up a $15,000 cash reward, hoping that someone will come forward with information.
But after 2 agonizing months with no new information and no word from Kayla, even her family faces the grim possibility that she's never coming home.
Around Thanksgiving, I had that gut feeling. I don't know if you call it a sixth sense. You just know. But that closure piece was very important.
They just wanted her body.
But will a moment of indiscretion finally give Kayla's family the closure they crave?
After more than a year of no new information and no leads on the case, the police get a tip from a jailhouse snitch.
Apparently, Randy is talking in jail.
By December 2017, Randall Freeman has spent more than a year in jail awaiting trial on arson charges.
He was arrested for firebombing the home of Clayton James, the man he believed had been sleeping with his wife, Kayla.
He can't get out of jail. The bond is too high. We've got a very, very good case on Randall Freeman for the arson.
But will detectives ever be able to close the books on Kayla's disappearance?
Detectives believed Randall killed Kayla and hid her body, but they had no proof.
However, after months of dead ends, detectives receive what appears to be a promising tip from an inmate at the Shelby County Jail.
An inmate housed with Randall Freeman tells detectives that Randall confessed that he had killed Kayla.
These little tidbits that we get from jail conversations, things of that nature, is enough to keep us going.
But it's not enough to bring murder charges against Randall.
A skilled defense attorney will rip the case apart if the only thing that they have is a jailhouse snitch.
Although with his trial on the arson charges approaching, prosecutors believe they have some powerful leverage.
Since Clayton and his family were home when Randall firebombed the house, he was also charged with multiple counts of aggravated assault and attempted murder.
He is facing so much time with these charges that if convicted is well over 100 years.
Will Randall be willing to lead detectives to Kayla's body in order to shave off some prison time?
What we want from him is real simple. Where is your wife? What happened to your wife? You tell us that, and we'll talk about whatever plea bargains we can reasonably work out.
Kayla's family agrees to the plan.
They shared it with us about the plea, and we wanted to move forward with doing that.
Whatever they have to do in order to get a confession so that they can get Kayla's body back, they're willing to go with it.
It was something that we needed as a family to actually put her to rest.
Now, it all depends on Randall.
The prosecution confront Randall, and they bargain with him to get him a deal so that they would give him only 28 years just to get the body.
His back against the wall, Randall accepts the prosecutor's offer.
If he doesn't, he'll be buried under the jail. Now, he knows that at some point in time, he'll see the light of day.
Randall tells police that he hid the body in a creek not too far from the home.
Searching the area, detectives find human remains.
The body was completely decomposed. It had been out there for over a year, exposed to the elements. But in this case, we were able to confirm that it was Kayla through dental x-rays.
It was sort of a relief in a way that we could actually put her to rest and that my family had closure.
Despite the state of Kayla's remains, the medical examiner suggests a possible cause of death.
Regardless of whether there's skin or not, we do have forensic anthropologists that can examine the remains, and we found blunt force trauma, but there was not enough evidence to suggest he beat her to death, although he could have. Unless he tells us specifically, and he didn't, we'll probably never know exactly what happened.
But detectives believe at least some of what Randall told them about that night was true.
That night, Kayla went home. Randall confronted her.
Kayla, where you been?
I told you. Friends from work.
Don't lie to me.
He accused her of being out with Clayton.
Kayla, you've been going out every day.
How many times do I have to tell you
The
this?
argument became heated,
So
and
why-
Randall
why
lashed
going
out in anger.
every night with these ladies. You should
I'm
be home
sorry.
with me.
It's ladies from work.
I think that a physical fight between them just went too far.
After realizing what he'd done, Randall had gotten rid of her body. Then he'd scrambled to cover his tracks.
He staged the scene as though a kidnapping took place and then proceeded to call 911 and play the role of a grieving husband.
But now, more than a year after he made that call, Randall stands before a judge and admits the truth.
Randall Freeman pled guilty to second-degree murder, aggravated arson, and was sentenced to 28 years. He cannot get out until he's done 100% of the time.
Kayla's family would have liked to see him serve more time, but they've made their peace with the outcome.
I forgive him. There's no hate in my heart. He'll serve his time. Hopefully, he'll come out and say something to his children who will be adults when he's released.
But Kayla's loved ones still struggle to understand how an irrational obsession led to such a senseless tragedy.
Kayla hadn't done anything wrong. She had never cheated on Randall.
His rage and his jealousy got out of control and caused him to do the unthinkable.
That's what hurts me. Her kids were robbed of growing up with their mom.
It's really hard to know that she's not there. And I know that she wanted to be there.
The Mirror Thief, a chronicle of meth, masks, and the American dream. Prologue, the weight of the badge. The sirens in the rearview mirror were the first sign that Virginia Dissette's world was about to fold in on itself. It was a Saturday afternoon in Colorado, the kind of day where the sky is a bruised shade of blue and the air carries the scent of pine and impending snow. She had been thinking about her chiropractic appointment, the mundane discomfort of a stiff neck, and the dinner she had planned for her family. When the cruiser's lights flickered red, blue, red, blue, she felt the instinctive jolt of a law-abiding citizen. A speeding ticket, an annoyance, a dent in the monthly budget. She pulled over, her mind already rehearsing the apology. But the officer who approached her window didn't have the weary, bored expression of a man writing a citation. His hand rested near his holster. His eyes were hard. Virginia Dissette? Yes, officer. I'm so sorry. I must have been. Ma'am, please step out of the vehicle. There is a warrant out for your arrest. The words didn't make sense. They were sounds without meaning, like static on a radio. A warrant. You're joking. I don't joke about felony forgery. Ma'am, put your hands behind your back. As the cold steel of the handcuffs clicked shut, Virginia felt the first shiver of a nightmare that wouldn't end when she woke up. This was the moment she realized that someone else was living her life. Someone she had never met was using her name, her face, and her reputation to burn down everything she had built. In that same moment, miles away in a dimly lit trailer, a woman named Tammy Carroll was staring at a computer screen, her pupils dilated to the size of saucers. She hadn't slept in 3 days. The methamphetamine humming in her veins made the world feel electric, sharp, and infinitely possible. On the screen was a digital template for a check. The name on the account was Virginia Dissett. The mirror had been stolen. The heist had begun. Chapter 1, The Chemistry of Desperation. To understand the crime, you had to understand the drug. Methamphetamine was not like cocaine or heroin. It didn't offer a brief escape or a heavy sleep. It offered focus. It offered a jagged, artificial productivity that turned desperate people into overnight experts in graphic design, forgery, and logistics. Tammy Carroll's world was a blur of residential mailboxes and the red flags of outgoing mail. In the suburban sprawl of Denver, a red flag on a mailbox was a beacon for a predator. It meant there was a bill inside, or a letter, or a check. It meant there was a piece of someone's life just waiting to be plucked. $50, Tammy whispered, handing a small baggie of white crystals to a runner who had just dropped off a stolen purse. Or a $50. Your choice. The runner chose the drugs. He always did. Tammy took the purse to her office. A kitchen table cluttered with scanners, high-end printers, and bottles of acetone. She reached into the leather bag and pulled out a wallet. She didn't care about the cash. That was for amateurs. She wanted the driver's license. She wanted the Social Security card. She wanted the identity. She looked at the photo on the license. A woman named Roberta Corcoran. She didn't look like Tammy, but that didn't matter. In the meth-fueled underground, they had dressers. They had women who could put on a wig, a pair of oversized sunglasses, and a certain air of suburban entitlement. With the right makeup and the right attitude, any woman could become Virginia Dissett or Roberta Corcoran for the 3 minutes it took to stand in front of a bank teller. It's a rush. Tammy would later tell investigators. Going into a bank, looking a teller in the eye, and walking out with $1,000 of someone else's sweat. It's better than the high, But the high was the reason. The ring was a machine that turned stolen paper into white powder. And the man who kept the machine oiled was Michael Schreckingist. Chapter 2: The King of Paper. Michael Schreckingist was the top dog. In the loose-knit community of Denver's addicts, he was a legend of sorts. He wasn't just a thief, he was an architect. He didn't just print checks, he built lives. Schreckingist's house was a fortress of paranoia. He had cameras mounted in the trees, on the roof, and covering every square inch of the backyard. He lived in a state of hypervigilance, fueled by the very drug that made him so prolific. While the rest of the world slept, Michael was awake, perfecting the Harley scam. It started with a convenience check those unsolicited offers credit card companies send in the mail. Most people throw them away. Michael saw them as blank checks for a new life. He found one belonging to a woman with a $25,000 credit limit. He didn't just want groceries or gas. He wanted a statement. He walked into a dealership and bought a Harley-Davidson motorcycle for $17,000. He used a counterfeit ID and the stolen check. He rode the bike off the lot, a phantom on a chrome beast, fueled by someone else's credit and his own audacity. To Michael, the people whose names he used weren't people. They were data points. They were accounts to be drained. He didn't see Virginia Dissett sitting in a jail cell, terrified and weeping because she couldn't afford the $10,000 bail. He didn't see her watching people in orange jumpsuits being hauled off to a place she never belonged. He only saw the ink on the paper. Chapter 3: The Ghost of Wheaton. While the meth heads in Denver were fighting for scraps of identity, a different kind of predator was stalking the suburbs of Chicago. Wheaton, Illinois, was a place of safety. It was a town of manicured lawns and high school football games. It was the last place you expected to find a professional. He was known as the Wheaton Bandit. He didn't use stolen checks. He used a handgun. His first hit was a master class in tactical precision. He didn't just walk in the front door. He arrived before the sun, hiding in the bushes, watching the employees arrive. He was patient. He was disciplined. When the tellers approached the door, he emerged like a shadow. He wore a balaclava, not a cheap ski mask, but a tactical hood used by SWAT teams. He wore a coat that seemed bulky, hiding the outline of what investigators believed was body armor. And he indexed his weapon. Look at his finger. FBI agent Eric Cayley said, pointing at the grainy surveillance footage. He's not pulling the trigger. His finger is along the slide. That's law enforcement training. That's military. This guy isn't a crackhead looking for a fix. He's a professional. The Wheaton bandit didn't just take the money. He took control. He ordered the tellers to the floor. He knew about die packs. When a teller tried to slip one in, he didn't panic. He sneered. What do you think I am? Stupid. I used to work in a bank. I know what that is. He hit once, then twice, then 16 times over 5 years. He became a bogeyman. A ghost with striking blue eyes that haunted the dreams of every bank employee in the county. He was the antithesis of the Denver meth ring, where they were sloppy and chaotic. He was cold and surgical. But both were symptoms of the same disease, greed. Chapter 4, The Unraveling. Detective Jim Rock was a man who believed in the truth. But the truth was becoming harder to find in a world of digital forgery. When he first saw the checks with Virginia Desette's name on them, he thought he had his culprit. The tellers had identified her. The IDs matched. But when he called Virginia, he didn't find a criminal. He found a victim who was more terrified of the police than the thieves. They were dressing women up to look like me. Virginia told him, her voice trembling. Wigs, sunglasses. They stole my life. Detective. Rock began to pull the thread. He found Roberta Corcoran. He found the links to Tammy Carroll. He realized he wasn't looking at a single thief, but a tangled web. He began a campaign of psychological warfare against Schreckingist. He would drive to Michael's house and bang on the door, knowing the cameras were watching him. I know you're in there, Michael. He'd shout, and I know what you're doing. We're going to be talking real close one day. The end for the Denver ring came on July 31st, 2002. Even the most careful addict eventually gets sloppy. Schreckingest, his mind frayed by the very drug that made him sharp, tried to use a very bad ID. He used the name Benjamin Bryce Taiwan Kim, a name that didn't match his face, using a check that had already been flagged. The police were called. He didn't run. He just sat there, the weight of 100 stolen lives finally catching up to him. Chapter 5. The Price of the High. For Tammy Carroll, the reckoning wasn't a prison sentence. It was a judge's voice. "You're a drug addict," the judge said, looking down at her. "And I don't ever want to see your kids in your care again." The world went silent. Not the silence of a quiet room, but the silence of an empty heart. 3 of her children were in foster care. Her youngest was placed for adoption. No other sentence could have been worse, Tammy would later say. Prison was nothing. Losing my children. That was the day I decided to die or change. She chose to change. She traded the office of forgery for the rooms of recovery. She traded the rush of the bank for the slow, painful work of sobriety. Today, she works the road to sobriety group, using her past not as a source of shame, but as a map for others. She got her children back. She makes in a month what she used to make in a day, and she sleeps with a clean conscience. But for Virginia Dissett, the damage is permanent. The charges were dropped, but the arrest record remains. In the eyes of the system, she isn't innocent. She's just someone they couldn't prove was guilty. Chapter 6. The New Frontier. Identity theft didn't stop with Schreckingest. It evolved. Agents Kirsten Gregg and Danya Davis are the new face of the war. They don't just look for male snatchers, they look for the LimeWire predators. They look for Kim Merritt, an addict who stole $140,000 using file-sharing software to raid unsecured computers. They tracked Kim to a desolate RV on the plains. Inside, they found a microcosm of the modern crime. Credit documents scattered next to a crack pipe. It's an all-consuming lifestyle, Agent Davis observed. The next fix is the only thing that matters. And identity theft is the easiest way to pay for it. While the agents fight the addicts, Companies like Trace Security hire good thieves like Jim Stickley to break into their own systems. Stickley, dressed as a fire inspector, walks into banks and walks out with backup tapes containing every customer's social security number. It's really easy, Stickley says with a shrug. If you look the part, people give you the keys to the kingdom. Chapter 7, The $1,000,000 Shadow. Anita Jans was a woman who believed in the solidity of her life. She had a home, a mortgage, and a credit score she had nurtured like a prize garden. But in September of 2005, a single phone call from a mortgage broker turned her reality into a hall of mirrors. Anita, I'm looking at your report here, the broker said, his voice hesitant. I see you have more than one mortgage. Anita laughed. It was a nervous, fluttering sound. No, I don't think so. I have the one house, the one loan. That's plenty for me. Ma'am, I'm seeing properties. Lots of them. Nearly $1,000,000 worth of real estate in your name. The panic that hit her was physical, a cold, oily sensation that started in her stomach and radiated to her fingertips. Somewhere out there, a stranger had taken her name and used it to buy an entire portfolio of homes. They were building an empire on her foundations. And when that empire inevitably crumbled, she would be the one left in the ruins. The average victim spends 600 hours cleaning up the mess. Anita spent months drowning in paperwork, title companies, and mortgage institutions that treated her like a criminal rather than a casualty. It wasn't until she found ID Watchdog, a new breed of company in the rehab industry, that she felt the first glimmer of hope. We make sure it's done completely, they told her. But even as her credit report began to clear, the psychological scar remained. These people don't want your car or your stereo. Anita warned. They want you. They want your most precious commodity. Chapter 8, The Invisible Infiltrator. If the meth addicts were the blunt force trauma of identity theft, Jim Stickley was the surgical strike. Stickley didn't use drugs, and he didn't need a wig. He needed a uniform and the silver tongue. Working for Trace Security, Stickley's job was to be the good guy who stole everything to show you how easy it was. His favorite role was the fire inspector, with a generic shirt, a fake badge, and a confident stride. He could bypass the most expensive security systems in the world. We walk into a bank, Stickley explained, his eyes twinkling with the mischief of a man who knew he could rob you blind. I tell them I'm there for the annual inspection. They see the shirt, they see the badge, and they just give you the keys. They lead you straight to the data center. Inside the server rooms, the high security vaults, where the digital lives of thousands were stored, Stickley would calmly fill his empty black bags with backup tapes. These tapes contained everything: social security numbers, mothers' maiden names, home addresses, account balances. We walk out the front door, he said. 90% success rate. And the most terrifying part, we meet with the staff a few days later, and they don't even recognize us in our street clothes. They realize they handed the kingdom to a nice, average guy. Stickley's work proved that identity theft wasn't just about hackers in dark rooms. It was about human nature. It was about our desire to trust a uniform, a smile, and a story. Chapter 9, The Clinical Scam. As the authorities in Colorado and Illinois grappled with thieves and bandits, a new shadow was emerging from a place of prestige. The medical office of Dr. Martinez. Dr. Martinez was a man of high standing, a healer in the eyes of his community. But behind the closed doors of his Chicago clinic, a different kind of alchemy was taking place. He wasn't just treating patients, he was harvesting them. The scheme was simple, clinical, and devastatingly lucrative. He billed for surgeries that never happened. He manipulated insurance codes to extract millions from a system designed to help the sick. But as the federal investigators began to circle, the doctor's panic began to manifest in darker ways. Money was the motive, but the preservation of his lifestyle, the luxury cars, the private schools, the high society invitations was the obsession. When a whistleblower named Joyce Brandon began to ask questions, the doctor faced a choice: the end of his career, or something much more permanent. Nobody in the world had any motive to kill Joyce. The prosecutor would later argue, except for a man who had built $1 million lie and feared the truth more than he feared God. The doctor's gamble would lead to a courtroom drama that exposed the rot at the heart of the American dream, where greed could turn a healer into a monster. Chapter 10, The Art of the Heist. While bank accounts and identities were being drained, a more tangible form of wealth was being targeted in the cold storage units of Fine Arts Express. The art heist wasn't about a thief in a mask climbing through a laser grid. It was an inside job, a betrayal of trust that turned masterpieces into bargaining chips. Fine Arts Express was supposed to be a sanctuary for the priceless. Collectors, museums, and estates trusted them with canvases that held the history of the human soul. But the greed that infected the Denver meth trailers had a sophisticated cousin in the world of high-end logistics. Investigating the missing pieces was like chasing ghosts through a gallery. The thieves didn't just take the paintings, they replaced them with silence, manipulated shipping manifests, and a complex web of lost inventory. It was a heist that relied on the very thing Jim Stickley preached, the assumption of legitimacy. If you have the right clipboard and the right key, nobody asks why you're moving a Rembrandt at 3 a.m. Chapter 11, The Teller's Prayer. For Jeanna England, the Wheaton Bandit wasn't a professional or a tactical mastermind. He was the man with the gun who stole her breath. On the day of the third robbery, Jeanna looked at the door and saw the nightmare made flesh. The bandit stood there, steady and commanding. She couldn't bring herself to look at his face. She stared at the floor, her hands clasped in a silent, desperate prayer. "I know you have more money," he said. His voice wasn't a scream, it was a cold, flat statement. "I have no more money," she whispered, her hands shaking so hard she thought her bones would rattle. When he saw the die pack in her drawer, the bandit's composure slipped. For a second, the professional vanished, replaced by a snarling, nervous animal. "What do you think I am Stupid. John had prayed he wouldn't get so nervous that he would shoot. She lived through it, but the memory became a permanent resident in her mind. Every time a customer walks in with a heavy coat or a quick stride, she feels that cold hand on her heart. She didn't lose her money that day, but she lost her sense of peace, and that was a debt the bandit could never repay. Chapter 12. The RV on the desolate plains. 25 miles outside of Denver, in the flat, wine-swept desolation of the plains, Agent Danya Davis stared at an RV. It was a rusted, claustrophobic shell that smelled of chemical fumes and old laundry. Inside was Kim Merritt. When the agents entered, they didn't find a high-tech hacker hub. They found a woman surrounded by the wreckage of a dozen lives. Credit card applications, bank statements, and Social Security numbers were strewn across the cramped space like confetti. And right next to them, as predictable as the sunrise, was the meth pipe. Did you use anyone else's Social Security number when you opened this? Davis asked, holding up a fresh account document. No, ma'am, Kim said. Her eyes were darting, her skin sallow from the drug. That's legit, because you know I'm going to check it. Kim, the tragedy of Kim Merritt wasn't just the $140,000 she had stolen. It was the all-consuming lifestyle. The drugs sat there, a constant temptation that turned a human being into a scavenger. She stole to stay high, and she stayed high to forget what she had stolen. When the handcuffs clicked, the same sound Virginia Dissett had heard months earlier, Kim didn't fight. She just sighed. The fix was over. Chapter 13, The Architecture of a Lie. The task force for the Wheaton Bandit continued to churn through suspects. Agent Cayley and Agent Forkas lived in a world of indexing, balclavas, and police scanners. They studied the way he moved, the way he parked his car on one-way streets, the way he used inclement weather as a cloak. He's a professional bank robber. The Department of Justice classified him. But to the task force, he was a puzzle with a missing piece. They looked at the surveillance tapes and saw the outlines of body armor. He wears that because he expects a fight, Cayley noted. He's prepared to exchange gunfire with us. That's the most alarming part. They wondered if he was one of them. A cop gone wrong. A soldier who brought the war home. The hypothesis was a bitter pill to swallow. If he knew their tactics, if he knew how they investigated, he was always 2 steps ahead. The $50,000 reward was a lighthouse in the dark, hoping to catch the eye of someone who knew the man behind the mask. But as the robbery stopped in 2006, the bandit became a myth, a ghost story told in the break rooms of Illinois banks. Chapter 14, The Silent Auction of Souls. The art heist at Fine Arts Express wasn't just about canvas and oil. It was about the erasure of cultural memory for the sake of a quick buck. The investigation led by federal agents revealed a systematic gutting of private collections. It was a slow-motion crime, occurring over months in the quiet, climate-controlled darkness of the warehouse. The thieves were methodical. They knew which crates wouldn't be opened for years. They understood the rhythm of the facility. They didn't just steal. They curated their own illicit gallery. By the time the first owner realized their Picasso was a high-quality reproduction, the original had already passed through 3 different hands in the European black market. This isn't about passion for art, an agent remarked, looking at the empty frames. It's about the liquidity of beauty. To them, a masterpiece is just a very expensive stack of $100 bills. The betrayal cut deep. For the collectors, the loss was personal, an amputation of their family history. For the thieves, it was just another successful transaction in a career built on the assumption that nobody is really watching. Chapter 15, The Surgeon's Cold Edge. Back in Chicago, the walls were closing in on Dr. Martinez. The federal audit of his clinic hadn't just found clerical errors, it had uncovered a vast, pulsating fraud. The millions he had extracted from insurance companies were the lifeblood of his decadent existence, the penthouse overlooking the lake, the vintage wine collection, the hollow prestige. But the fraud was only the beginning. Joyce Brandon, his head nurse for 15 years, had seen too much. She had seen the patients who walked in for a consultation and walked out with a bill for a complex spinal fusion that never took place. She had kept her own ledger, a secret record of the doctor's ghost surgeries. When the FBI first contacted her, she hesitated, but the weight of the lies became too much. She agreed to testify. Martinez knew. He could see it in the way she looked at him across the sterile glare of the operating room. He didn't see a colleague. He saw a threat. He began to plan not a surgery, but an extraction. The night Joyce was found in her car, the official report spoke of a tragic accident. But for the investigators who knew about the ledger, the scent of antiseptic on her clothing didn't match the scene. It matched the clinic. The healer had become a butcher, carving away the only person who could stop the flow of blood-soaked money. Chapter 16, The Informant's Gamble. In the Denver underground, the fall of Michael Schreckingist created a vacuum of fear. Tammy Carroll, facing the loss of her children, made the hardest choice of her life. She became a ghost within the ring, feeding information to Detective Jim Rock. "He's printing again," she whispered into a burner phone at 3:00 a.m. "New templates. He's moved the operation to a motel on Colfax." Rock moved in with surgical precision. But Schreckingist was a cornered rat with the energy of 1,000 lightning bolts. He fought. He hid behind his cameras. He burned documents in a bathtub as the door was kicked in. The aftermath was a graveyard of tech. Melted hard drives, half-printed checks, and bags of meth that looked like crushed diamonds. Tammy stood in the shadows as Michael was led away in chains. She had saved herself, but she had betrayed the only family she had left. It was a cold victory, the kind that leaves a bitter taste in your mouth even as you walk toward the light of a drug treatment center. Chapter 17, The Ghost in the Mirror. By 2008, the name Wheaton Bandit was synonymous with failure for the local FBI. The sketch, that haunting image of the man with the tactical hood and the piercing blue eyes, was posted in every post office and police station in the tri-state area. And then silence. The robberies didn't just slow down, they vanished. Some believed he had died. Others thought he had retired to a tropical island with his $250,000 haul. But Agent Cayley had a different theory. He didn't stop because he was rich, Cayley said, tapping the sketch. He stopped because we saw him. That witness, that old sorry wave, it broke his illusion of invisibility. He's out there living a normal life. Maybe even sitting next to you at a diner. But he's always looking in the mirror, waiting for the reflection to change into the face on this poster. The mystery remained an open wound. Every time a new bank robbery occurred, with a hint of tactical precision, the task force's phones would light up. But the signature was never the same. The bandit had become a legend, a shadow that proved that sometimes the mask is the only thing the world ever gets to see. Chapter 19, The Ghost in the Operating Room. The trial of Dr. Martinez was a spectacle of fallen grace. In the high-ceiling courtroom of Chicago, the man who once moved through the city's elite circles sat reduced, his expensive silk suit suddenly looking 3 sizes too big. The prosecution's case was a surgical strike of its own, built on the foundations of a ledger that had cost a woman her life. He didn't see patients, the assistant U.S. attorney declared, pointing a finger that felt like a gavel. He saw ATM machines with heartbeats. He billed for bone grafts that were never performed, for incisions that never bled, and for hope that he never intended to deliver. The defense tried to paint him as a victim of a complex billing system, a man too busy saving lives to notice the administrative errors of his staff. But when the FBI presented the forensic evidence from Joyce Brandon's car, the microscopic traces of surgical-grade antiseptic that only existed in Martinez's private supply, the silence in the room was absolute. The doctor didn't look at the jury. He looked at his hands, those steady, gifted hands that had traded the Hippocratic oath for $1 million insurance scheme. When the verdict of guilty came down, there was no outburst. Only the sound of a man finally breathing out the lie he had lived for a decade. He was sentenced to 20 years, a lifetime in the eyes of a man who was used to the finest things. His penthouse was seized, his cars auctioned off, and the medical board stripped his name from their registers. The healer was gone. The butcher remained. Chapter 20, The Red Flag Warning. In Colorado, the war had moved from the streets to the screens. Agents Kirsten Gregg and Danya Davis sat in a dimly lit office at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of data streams. They were the CFI criminal fraud investigators, and their new target was the digital ghost of Kim Merritt. She's out on bond, and she's already hitting the servers, Greg noted, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. She's using LimeWire like a fishing net. People leave their My Documents folder shared, and she just reaches in and takes their life. They tracked her through a series of IP addresses that zigzagged across the metro area. It wasn't just about mailboxes anymore. It was about unsecured Wi-Fi and the invisible vulnerabilities of the modern home. They saw her memorizing Social Security numbers as if they were mantras, opening lines of credit before the victims had even finished their morning coffee. It's the meth, Davis said, watching the activity logs. It gives them this jagged, endless energy. They can stay awake for 72 hours just typing, just scanning, just stealing. To them, it's a game where the prize is another baggie of crystal. When they finally cornered Kim in the RV, the transition from the digital world to the physical one was jarring. The credit cards in her